Afternoon, everyone. If you're ready to get started, we're ready to get started. Ready to get started? Yeah, okay, great, thank you. I'm Wendy Northcross. I live in West Barnstable. I have been elected chair to the local comprehensive planning committee as of January, when the previous chair, Felicia Penn, was elected to town council. So I have the great honor of stepping into her shoes and continuing to move this process forward. So just we have a brief overview of how the local comp plan process is structured. We have a report out on the things that we've heard to date. We have some written materials to present to you for feedback. And this meeting really is about you. This meeting is about getting you around the room, looking at the written materials, looking at the maps, looking at some of the conclusions drawn so far for overarching goals, and getting your feedback. We have, we actually began in, let's see, August of 2022. So we're almost 2 full years on in this process. And we've spent literally the first 12 months just going out into the community and listening to people. It got to the point where the committee was like, well, when do we get to talk? When do we get to deliberate? But we spent an awful lot of time listening to people where they're at. We have had people at our committee meetings. We have conducted online surveys of multiple questions, of single questions. We have, we're hosting these meetings now, one in every village, to make it more convenient for people that maybe don't want to or can't get to town hall at a specific time. And yet we're only at the halfway point. So this is a great time to just stop and push the information back out to the community again and say, what do you think? Have we missed the mark? Are we on the mark? What are your comments? So I will say that we probably have another year to almost 2 years still to go. It's a very in-depth process. We are looking at a lot of different aspects of our community, and I think that this will help you a little bit easier understand what we've been through and what we're looking for tonight. So local comprehensive plan really defines a long-term vision for the community. This is a 10 to 20 year out plan. We want to talk to the kids that are going to inherit this plan, right? So we have.
Wendy, can you?
Yeah. Oh.
You might want to remind Joseph that we don't want to watch him eat dinner. He might want to close his video now.
Joe, can you put your camera on mute? Or can you send us some soup? You might, I'm sorry, you might have to let Joe. I'm not the tech person in the family.
You want to read this? So easy.
Okay. So it's a comprehensive plan, which means we have to look at a lot of different aspects. It primarily is going to be used for land use decisions, but that's not everything that's in the plan. This is how the community is going to thrive and survive into the next 10, 20, 30 years. So right now, we've divided it into 2 buckets. Phase number 1 is completed, that we did an existing conditions assessment, and that is all online, and we did a vision statement. After that 1 year of listening to people in our community, we came up with our vision statement, and I just really do hope people take time to look at that. So essentially what we have heard from the town and people that are stakeholders in our community. Our town is vibrant, it's diverse, it's where people and nature thrive together. We're committed to creating a healthy, safe, inclusive, and equitable place for all residents, and to restore, enhance, and protect our natural resources for future generations. So certain specific ideas that the community wanted us to act proactively on, including number 1, protect, restore, enhance priority natural habitats, salt and freshwater resources, and open spaces. That's number 1. It goes down through 2 columns of concepts for what we will do to actively achieve this, down to recognize and build upon previous efforts by citizens and the town to make Barnstable the best that it can be. So we're all here because we basically love the town. We work here, we raised our families here, and we're spending a great amount of time working on a plan. So I just want to quickly introduce some people in the room. I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Crowe, and I'd like to acknowledge the staff that are here, Elizabeth Jenkins, who's head of the planning department, and her staff, Jim Cuthbert and Kyle Pedicini have been with us. There's other people that are not here tonight that are in this process. And the committee, Lindsay Council is the vice chair. What are you? What chair?
Right there.
Deputy chief,
Yes.
vice chair. And Jennifer Williams, Avery Revere, Bob Twist, Sue Roback is here. So we have representation, I think, from every village, but we have taken a holistic view of the town. What we've really pledged ourselves to doing is looking at Barnstable as a whole and then understanding all the uniqueness of our 7 villages. So this existing conditions report is based on the last plan and what we have today. We're now starting phase 2, which is land use topics and community goals, and then writing actions that will get us to some of these goals. Tonight you have goals around the room, and these are the goals that we want to know. Before we start writing action suggestions, we need to know that we're hitting the right marks. All of this information is on its own website, barnstablelcp.com. So if you wanted to pull out any piece of this, you certainly can do that. The first 4 bars on this page are the topics that we've tackled so far: land use, housing, natural resources. I think this thing is going all by itself. Kyle's going, yeah. So land use, housing, natural resources, and facilities and infrastructure. We will probably circle back to housing since it's such a complex issue, and we will probably revisit land use when we're done with all of the topics here. We're out in the community now on these first 4 bars, and it will be looking at economic development, culture, heritage, and design in the coming months. And then we'll be back to you again in the same format, along with other processes for your feedback. Each section of this plan is drafted into chapters, into goals, into strategies. And then we will work on, like I said, the action plan. What are the actual active steps that we're recommending the town undertake to achieve certain things? But the action plan will not just be a whole laundry list of things to do, kind of like what the last plan had, an immense list of things to do. I think DPW had 300 things on their you should do list. What we're trying to do is be very high level and be very realistic and create an action item, but create who's going to do it, suggestions, and then create performance measures so that we know if we're hitting our marks or not. So here are some of the examples of performance measures. Have we protected the habitat that we want to? Have we created the sidewalk network that we wanted? Have we protected our historic resources? Do we have higher paying jobs? Do we have enough housing, floodplain development, those kinds of things? There'll be actual things that we can measure. So the departments and the people that have been asked to do this work will be able to tell if they're achieving the goals or not. So that's how the documents will be crafted and created. Right now, as I said, this barnstablelcp.com is a website you can go to. You can download any pieces of this information. You can go downstairs and ask the librarian here for all the documents that have been created to date. You can feedback information concurrently with going online and looking at some of this information as a way to comment on this very specific part of what is up there. You can come here tonight and give us a sticky note and put it on a certain topic. You can call me, you can email the town staff, you can show up at an LCPC meeting, and we will be back to you pretty consistently with what we heard. Now, when we have a plan drafted, the plan has to be pretty well vetted after 4 years, you would hope you'd have a well-vetted plan. That plan is going to go to the planning board. They will hold a public hearing, and the planning board signs off on it. It will then go to the town council. They will hold a public hearing, and then they will decide to adopt it or not. Our preference is that they take 4 years worth of this feedback and energy and community input, and hopefully it's an adoptable document. So that's our goal. So tonight, really, we're not supposed to be sitting down. We're supposed to be walking around, checking out the charts. We have a pretty extensive set of maps that will be ingrained in all of these reports. We have one here tonight that shows you clearly what parts of town have been designated for potential new growth and development, and what parts of town have been set aside to offset that any potential new development. And new development doesn't mean we're going to pave over paradise. New development may be, we can do some infill, we can turn something that was commercial into residential, and vice versa. All of these things are still in concept stages, except for the current zoning maps, which we have here before you. So planning staff is here to answer any technical questions, but really and truly, we want to hear from you and hear your ideas and hear your comments. And with that, I'm going to ask you to miss anything.
I don't think so, only that we know there's a lot of content, certainly even just on the board that you see tonight, as well as in the draft chapters that are posted online. We hope this meeting sparks your interest and you go and take a look at those. We are hoping to have initial comments on these chapters back to the committee by May 16th. So that is certainly not a hard date of when you can stop being involved with this process, but in order to provide some updates and feedback to the committee, we ask that you do try to hit that May date so we can keep our process moving along and make sure we're giving all the great feedback we can.
May 16th is for what's in the room. There'll be more after that. But, you know, one of the comments, once the new council was sworn in earlier this year, I made it my personal responsibility to go to town council meetings because they wanted to hear public comment and they wanted to hear the councilors' reaction to public comment, kind of get a sense of some of the bigger picture concerns of the community. One comment I heard was it's taking too long to do the local comprehensive plan, which I don't think we disagree, but it's a lot of work. So I asked the committee, would you mind doubling up on the meetings that we do? So twice a month we're meeting now. One meeting is dedicated to a lot of input from experts and people in a very specified field. And then the next meeting is our deliberation and creating more strategies. So thank you, committee, for
Tell me what to do with it.
what to do with the dots. Thank you, Lindsay. So I want to thank the committee for doubling up. So the process tonight is you've got sticky dots and sticky notes. The dots are meant to go to these larger charts with all the wording on them and say, I agree or disagree. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. If you have an idea, you want to write it into the certain section, that's fine. We're looking for all of that feedback.
And I will say, I'm gonna add to that real quick. If you don't want to write on the boards are translated into the smaller handouts that are on the table. I see a number. Feel free to write on the handout. We put some postcards out, so take one of those home if you're thinking about this later in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, I really want to comment on that, jot it down on one of those postcards, and they're pre-addressed. You just have to pop them in the mail or drop them off at town hall, or again, barnstablelvp.com. So it doesn't really matter how you get your comments to us, whether again, you write them down or you email them, or you want to write us a letter, please.
Come talk to one of the committee members.
Yeah, and again, we're so thankful to have great committee member representation.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I picked up one of the flyers, which is
Yeah.
the places for the stickies. And I've been through it. It's written townwide, and I understand that, and I can see that a lot of work has gone into that. But being here in Osterville, I think that before I would go around and put stickies up, I'd like to learn a little bit more about what the thinking is for Osterville. And I'll just pick the first one, land use, residential and rural, which most of the, right here is not, but most of the village is. And it talks about housing types and sensitivity to environmental constraints. there are about 5 or 6 of these that could be narrowed down to what the thinking is for this village. And I wonder if you could address that. I think that'll make it a little, some
Easier?
specifics would make it easier for us at the village to go around it and,
And in that
Comment.
context, this map, is this map also speaking to the, what is current or to the future?
This is
Of
the
what's proposed?
current
Land use, no, so land use, so this right now is just sort of reflecting, and it really does reflect from almost a regulatory standpoint, what our current land use conditions are, but as Wendy said, we started with sort of a look at what's on the ground today, and then we're gonna conclude this process by taking all of these comments and really thinking about, you know, do we have the right boundaries? How do we wanna mix or alter the vision for those separate areas? So it is fairly reflective, but the goal is to take what's that's sort of
Yeah.
current and projected into the
But I second what you were saying, because it's very hard to interpret if you are an Osterville resident, how you interpret what this says for that.
Well, so you're our filter, right? You're Australians, and we want to know what you think about these items through your lens. That's what we want to know. Sorry.
If I might, coming along what was just said, as it relates to Osterville, in fact, you've been at this 2 years, thank you for your work. This is the first that, you know, I've heard of it, and, I realized someone's gonna tell me it was on the town website, that there were meetings, I understand that. But one of the things that, I came here, I've been in this room with a number of other people I see here a number of times because of what's going on in Dulces or might go on in Dulces. And we sat in this room multiple times and heard one of the major issues, and it's just as an Osterville, is, you know, water. And so we need to do the deal with the company that's funded by Qatar, that is from Spain, that sets things up in limited liability corporations, that rejects their contracts and starts bidding again. And oh, by the way, I can remember, and I think it was Z Cracker, who I respect greatly, was here talking about one of the reasons that we're for the concept. And I think everybody here's for clean water and green energy, was because we need sewers badly in a lot of places, including here in Osterville. And part of the original deal with the people that are doing the wind farms was they were going to contribute some money to the sewers. And then.
Less than 1%.
Much.
Less than 1%.
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm not talking about the cable. Let's talk-
No, I'm not talking about the cable. Please, Paul, give me a second here. So then you go forward, he's actually a friend. And then if you move forward to this, I read something about activity centers. And activity centers, Osterville being one of them. And again, and reading what they like to see, taking the time to see with the activity centers, it certainly talks about things like mixed-use development, increased density of residences. And to me, I often wonder, does the left hand know what the right hand's concerned about? If water's a problem, why are we increasing or considering, I understand, a long time ago, considering density in a village like Osterville? So I have a specific question on that.
So those are great comments to leave on a sticky note. We're here to listen. I mean, we don't have the answers. We're
Right.
still taking in volumes of information. We still have more villages to go. We still have a lot to parse through. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you want for your community.
Understand, that's why I just said.
We're
it.
just trying
I
to
guess
figure
I-
out
stickers.
what are we saying our community is? Is it Barnstable?
Well-
Is it Osterville? Is it what I think about Hyannis versus Marston's Mills versus Osterville? I mean, if I'm gonna put up stickies, I wanna do it with
Now,
a mind toward it. I don't know what I'm answering.
So this is a plan for the entire town, knowing that not every part of the town is the same zoning or needs or desires. Gathering this information and we're finding out what people want, and we're gonna try to write the best plan that we know how to write that will help address needs in the future. So I'm just gonna ask the people in the room to speak. Sue's on our committee, So committee members are here to talk, so just hold that thought. So why don't we try this? Why don't you grab some sticky notes, sticky dots, and get up on these charts and read these, and then ask us if that's not going to work.
Well, maybe before we do that, if I just even look at the very first one, we're talking about residential and we're talking about rural areas. And yet in this, you talk about residential, it's small businesses. So
Do you agree with that,
I
or do
agree
you
that I
disagree?
don't understand what I'm supposed to answer here.
Yeah.
If we're talking about residential zoning and you're talking about small businesses and residential zoning, and you're talking about probably having more Airbnbs, which in my estimation is a
Does
business.
it say that?
No,
Okay.
no, but I don't understand why small businesses even in the same section with
And how
residential.
do I contextualize what is 2 and 3 family dwellings, small scale cluster housing and townhouses?
Right.
Where?
Right, exactly.
So there's no,
Exactly.
I can't write an essay on a Post-it note.
So we just want to know if you agree or disagree with that phrase, and if you
How do I, what do
disagree.
you mean? Do I agree on the phrase? The phrase for what? If it's New York City, yeah.
No. Through your Osterville lens. We know we're in Osterville, and we're gonna take these comments back and attribute them to Osterville, but we're not done, folks. We have a lot more to do. We have a lot more people to talk to. We're going into the schools, we're talking to the high school students. We have a lot more filters to go through. Tonight is your filter, tonight is your opportunity to get up on the boards. If you disagree with everything, then that whole column should be all filled with sticky dots and why it's a bad idea.
But please provide us that content. I mean, you asked, do you want us to look through the lens of an Osterville resident? Or do you want us to comment on, what we think is good for Hyannis? I would say all of those things, because we do function together as a community. So you might have, a certain vision for Osterville, but you might go to Hyannis for services or shopping, and you might feel that there's something there that, you could benefit from as well. So, please just, give us all of those comments, because this is the challenge. This is why we've been dedicating so much time going to all of our villages.
And I'm just gonna jump in. I know most of you are in the room. I'm Jennifer Williams from the Osterville Historical Museum, Osterville Farmers Market, OVA Board, OVPA Steering Committee. I know it's a lot of supplements here. But I think for tonight, it's really about us and Osterville and this village and what we love and what we want to maintain, what we love historically, what we love about the seaside community that is special to all of us. I think it's about preserving the heart and core about what makes Osterville so special and why we all call it home. So I know there are lots of issues, lots of things discussed. We talk about water quality, and really we're all concerned about water quality, not only the estuaries and the oceans, but our drinking water as well. So there's so many issues before us. From my perspective, I think going through like with an Osterville eye, since this is our Osterville meeting, to really focus on this village in Osterville. Certainly we live and we are part of the town of Barnstable, and that factors into it, no question. But for tonight, because this is Osterville, I would say if you approach these questions and statements with an Osterville frame of mind, that might be helpful to start. And then certainly jumping into larger Barnstable issues as we all work and live and play in this beautiful place called Barnstable. And filling in that information would be helpful. And I'm more than happy to talk with anyone. I'm here at the museum all the time, and I know most of you anyway, and see it quite frequently. So I'm always here to listen. And we do have these regular meetings, and I'm so excited to see all of you here tonight.
Can I ask one more clarifying question, because that was very, to me, helpful.
Yes.
So, one of the things I'm having problems with in reading the materials is knowing when I'm talking about Osterville commercial area
Right.
versus the rest.
Right.
So there's a lot of Osterville that is not commercial, currently, at least primarily not.
Exactly.
And I don't know where the picture is in this, of where that begins and ends. And I think that does make a difference in how people might respond.
So my recommendation would be to write that down. Just write down, I like the housing here and I like the small businesses there.
And I think just from a, perspective of being on the Hospital Business and Professional Association Steering Committee and how we support our businesses within the village, I mean, I think we think of the, business community center certainly, and residential, flowing outward from that, and I don't think there's any movement to change that. I think we want to support both our residential areas and support our small businesses, because together, when we are all thriving, it really is a win-win for all of us, because we really depend on that vibrant, small business, local business community.
I've got one comment in the back. I was just wondering if there's going to be a general discussion after people put up their post-it notes, or is the meeting over once people have wandered around a little bit? Well, probably not. The way that this has worked in all the other villages is that we get all the questions out now. Usually it's taken about half an hour, and there's questions and answers, and then we send you off to go around the room, and then we have to gather this all and take it back. We can have one-on-one conversations, certainly we're not, you get this woman and then you.
Just one other question, Mary, because if we're to answer this about Osterville and how we feel about Osterville, but yet what town Barnstable is presenting, putting together is an overall town plan.
Right.
How is that ever going to be separated? In other words, if we are answering for Osterville and how we'd like to see Osterville, but yet you're going to put in place an overall town plan, you're not going to distinguish one village from the other. So whatever you say, and it might be that Hyannis makes totally different decisions than what we do in Osterville. And you're gonna put that plan in place, because most of the people will probably come from Hyannis. I don't understand how we're gonna differentiate. I know this is the first year that we've done this. My understanding is we went back before and actually this plan came from the villages and sent up and then put together. Okay, this is a totally different process, and my concern is that our overall plan is not gonna reflect the individual.
Write that down. Write that down. I can write that down. Actually, Jennifer, let me just get the rest of these comments, because we want to hear from you, but we want to hear about the content that's on the boards, truly, so that we can compare some apples to apples here. I know every village is different. I know every village is special, but there's been huge commonality. So I just want to.
Can I just make one suggestion you might want to
Yeah.
consider? I think it's unfortunate there's only been one of these scheduled per village. For example, we're from Centerville. I don't know if anybody else is here from another village, but we weren't able to make the Centerville, which I heard was very poorly attended.
20 people.
15 is what I heard, but I guess, it's unfortunate with just one per village. People aren't really given an opportunity, you're still in this process. This is a great turnout for this village, but this is still a very small percentage.
For this stuff, not to interrupt you, but for this style of feedback, we've done one in each village, but we've got a long road to go yet.
Yep, I
And
understand.
we have a lot of different ways people can give us input. And then we will have, and I'm talking with Felicia, and the planning department about, maybe we just schedule one big honking meeting. It's just public comment. People can go into town hall and just line up at the mic. The thing that in the 40 years that I've been doing this kind of work, there's some people that just don't want to show up and they want to send you a note. They want to call you, they want to walk in and see you. They don't want to get up in front of a mic. So we're trying to create ways for people to feel comfortable and come and talk. So that's all we're trying to do.
Okay, can I just finish my comment now?
Sure.
So I was gonna say that I feel like, if you had more than one meeting, you give more of an opportunity. But when we called, we checked, and we were told that, people are welcome to come to any of the meetings, because it was gonna be the same from any village.
Yeah.
So if you've got people from Centerville, I wanna make comments here, I'm gonna be thinking about Centerville versus Osterville. And again, I don't know how true that is in some of the other meetings, but having at least 2 meetings per village, I think would have been advisable. And I just.
Well, there'll be another round of meetings, just like this, per village.
Pardon?
There's planned another round of meetings, just like this, per village. And we get more chapters done, and we'll have these chapters too. All right, wait a minute, so I've got someone over here. So,
I guess my basic question is this supposed to be a 10-year plan? And
This is a future looking plan, so this is 10 to 20 years out.
are there numerical projections as to where housing is supposed to go? How much housing should there be? Population, what's the anticipated?
Yes,
My
yes.
My background is in city planning and
Yeah.
economic development.
There's-
Town is, town back in California where Google's headquartered. And, one of the things that we did all the time was we worked on housing. That was never anything we ever stopped working. And now it's still a problem and the state's telling us how much more housing we have to provide. Or have, not we, they have to provide now. And there
There's a
are-
housing production plan that's being updated
Right,
now. so
well,
we have-
all I'm saying is
thinking
that
as
it's
well.
very important to sort of look at both ends of the scale. Is you're looking at housing, housing is a demand. Are we looking at any constraints on what generates this demand for housing?
Mhm.
How much industry is there gonna be? How many jobs? When do we stop? If you don't, we're gonna need even more lanes on the bridges. It's just, the planning needs to be looked at, from the standpoint of both the local villages, which are very, everyone in the village looks upon themselves as being very special.
Mhm.
But there is no idea what's gonna happen in those villages, like the kind of things that are talked about in some of these questions. So I share the view that others have had as well.
Okay.
But developing some specific numbers would be very helpful.
Yes, there will be a large amount of backup data to these reports.
But we may need it now to talk about things.
Please.
Okay,
Right, to that gentleman's
Chat.
point, would you, or is it possible to share the data that the current committee is using to formulate its goals and its plan? In other words, will you share that ongoing data as it's available to the committee?
so so the existing conditions report, I would urge you to take a look at that.
Does that have the forecasted data?
So in the phase one, the first phase of this process, as we developed out the vision statement, to both of your points, we wanted to have a good idea of where we are today, what our baseline is, and yes, absolutely where we're potentially projected to go. So as we started the vision statement, we started out the committee with an existing conditions report. So we have that solid foundation of fact upon which to build our goals and our strategies on. So in addition to that, we are boiling those, that it's an 80-page report. So we're gonna boil those down into data pages that go with each one of these chapters. So we're working on that concurrently with this. But if you want to deep dive, regardless of the issue, you can always contact us in planning. We can connect you with that data and what it looks like. I mean, the cake is highly variable in terms of where we want to go in the future. And I think it's really leaning on these guiding principles in our vision to, help put that forward. We really are, I think, in a moment of change. And the way I like to think about this plan is let's come together around a bold vision of where we want to be in 20 years. And then the committee will help do the work to understand what's in our way, what's keeping us from getting there, what barriers do we need to break down, and what resources do we need to put in to get to the vision that we've come
Okay,
together on collective.
that's great. I guess since we're talking about 10 and 20-year plans and the preliminary news that I saw about this meeting implies that local zoning control planning is being ceded to an appointed committee by the town.
No,
That's empowered
Well,
by
I
the town.
think
So
that
my
was-
question is, as you
that information didn't
finalize your
come from
plan,
us.
what autonomy will remain with villages as to how that plan is executed in the villages?
So
If any?
our plan will not have the teeth of law. Our plan is a community vision, a well-vetted conversation with our town residents and stakeholders what they would like to see into the future that helps to inform the bodies that do make those decisions. Primarily the town council, and they are the ones that promulgate ordinances. We do not, we put together like, this is the desired state.
So the town committee does not have authority to influence the building, it can make recommendations, but
Exactly.
what happens in the villages
Exactly.
remains under the village control.
The town council has the ultimate, they're your legislative body.
So it
I
just,
think there was.
okay, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for all the work that you put in on this, it's a lot, I realize. And a couple of people I talked with that to be here tonight, did some reading, I've done some reading, I had
Good.
the day we come with that. But, there's what I'm hearing a little consistently from some friends is that some of these points are a little vague. And they're concerned about, like, the answers that are given, how are they gonna be really interpreted?
Yep.
And, so I put that out there, I realize you might say, like, sticky note up, but it's really an overarching comment.
Well, it's kind of a litmus test. You agree or you disagree. And if you disagree, it'd be good to know why, and if you agree, it would be good to know why. But it's not meant to be this is high level, these are the goals. So if we all, and there's been surprising, consistency across villages that we've already been to. So if you disagree, then we need to know, and I think that will filter us onto the next step. And like I said, we'll be back to you with the results of that.
But will the result be the decision? That's what I'm
No,
worried about.
But so the written chapters that will then have strategies and then the action steps. That's what will eventually, and then the measurements for performance, that's what will go to the planning board and then the town council.
So do we have the opportunity to amend?
Yeah, I mean, this is a public process that is all on the website. Because documents are generated, they're on barnstable.com, and we'll be consistently asking people for feedback, sir, and then sir.
Are there going to be specific plans for each village?
I
And who's
don't,
gonna make those decisions?
I don't know, and we don't have to answer that right now, I don't know. As the chair, I don't know. We've heard clearly from a couple of villages, we just want to see our village plan, we don't care about the rest of the town. We heard from a bunch of other villages that we want this for our village, it's the same thing as all the other villages, so I think it's gonna be a little easier than people might imagine.
Say what you want.
I mean, what I was going to, yeah, exactly, say it now, and if we identify actions or desires that we need to take in a specific village to move this forward, then those are the types of things we will want to include in our action plan. So if Osterville is particularly worried about X, Y, Z, or has a vision to be here in the future, let us know that. And then those are the sort of actions that we can develop out through our action plan to make sure we want to get not just the entire town, but the individual villages to be where they want to be in the future.
I commend you on all your work thus far. It's obviously been laid out very nicely for us to try to read and understand. As a new, relatively new Osterville resident, I raised my family here, my daughter. We chose this village because it's awesome in the town, and it's really neat. And all of the town villages have their various nuances and differences. What makes Osterville great may not make Barnstable Village great. And in that I'm new, maybe this question has already been asked. Is there a way we can break this out to the various villages and just have an Osterville specific one?
I think there's probably gonna be nuances per village. I mean, as a good example is that Barnstable Village was real concerned about sidewalks. Centerville's real concerned about, housing in Hyannis. I forget where we've been. Marston's Mills was real concerned about speeding. But all of those issues came up in all the different villages too. So I think what we're gonna find is that perhaps there are solutions to some of our challenges that can come through town council that are doing, because they promulgate town, right? However, we're not done with the process yet. I think that we're trying to create a plan that will actually not just sit on a shelf and collect data. And the last plan, while it was great, it was lengthy, but it was almost too unwieldy and it didn't become useful to the decision makers in the community. That's all. Okay, 2 more questions and then we're gonna go with our sticky docs and you can come up and talk to us individually. Okay, hold on, the gentleman with
Yeah, I went to, Paul Bernard. What I'm hearing is there's no such thing as an overall plan for Barnstable that applies to every village. Barnstable is made up of 7 villages. The plans start with the villages. Each village believes they're unique. And so therefore, it seems to me that of the criteria you've chosen, it has to be specific to a village. And what I'm hearing is that's not necessarily the output of the eventual output of the plan. The eventual output is for Barnstable. And I think that doesn't fly with me. The output has to be individual villages, village plans based upon a concept. And so I'm a little concerned.
Yeah, and it's hard to build the airplane while we're flying, Paul. I mean, and you're asking me for outputs that we were not even there.
You must have heard this from other villages you've been to, is that the final output has to be village specific, not town of Barnstable specific. And I didn't hear that from you.
I think what we're saying is that there's far more commonality than you might imagine. And if we can bundle those into town-wide initiatives, we have a better chance of getting some things accomplished.
I just
Clean
think that's a
water,
way of not
sidewalks.
hearing what is being said by many people in here, is that so what that we have agreement. But, you know, someone in Hyannis might agree, I don't want things to be too dense, and that's not gonna be the same kind of density that we're speaking of if we're in Osterville or Centerville or whatever. And so I think it's dangerous to try, in this case, it's an oddity that we think of Barnstable as a quote town. Every time I ask Siri where I'm going, she wants to know, is it Osterville or is it Barnstable, which is it? And, you know, it's Hyannis and Osterville, Hyannis and Marston Mills, or Katuitt, they're not the
Don't
same
forget
town.
Barnstable.
And so it doesn't make sense to be trying to force these into a you know, round peg into a square hole.
I think,
And that makes it scarier for all of us.
so we're building wastewater, we're looking at sidewalks, we're looking at safer roads, we're looking at transportation, and we're looking at the things that transcend town borders even, not even village borders. So we're looking at these complex systems that have to be able to support a whole lot of things.
But that's just one of your items of infrastructure that you just listed.
But
And
it's,
you have a lot of other items there that don't fit under that role.
And housing don't do that.
can somebody have one more question, and then we're gonna.
My concern is, when you're talking about 10 years, there's a pyramid of things that have to happen. They have to correspond. And the first number one thing is the major problem we have right now, that the town, we have slipped through in 2020 during COVID. And now we have a real mess on our hands. We need to protect our underground water. The plans that are set up to try to come right through stability here and ruin our underground water supply, but the temperatures are supposed to be low. And they're gonna sit upon our aquifer. This is a major problem. You've developed an industrial zone and you now want to make it peaceful.
This one is all.
Because when you start this whole thing, you're then talking about density, you're gonna then have to increase the schools. So there's no school in Osterville, other than private school, because you took that away, my kids went to that school. So that's a problem. The biggest problem is you can't do any of this without sewers. And that's 10 years down the road. But you don't also have the jobs. Not my problem.
Are you recording this meeting? I mean, you keep saying make a post-it. We're saying it with our words if you were
I'm
recording
taking
it.
notes, I'm taking notes.
I don't want to sit there write a perfect.
But I would-
You'll be able to read.
No,
it,
that's
maybe
right.
you won't.
So you don't have to, you can,
No, I
you
do.
can come up to us, we'll take notes, you can go online, you can write it out in the privacy of your own home. You can send an email, you can make a phone call, you can do snail mail.
It's happening right here.
I'm
right
gonna
now.
interrupt for a second, because as a person who's on the committee, why I'm here is exactly what's happening right now. Is I can hear you, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think it's so important and so awesome, and I hope that you find a way to write it down specifically for Osterville. As someone who also went through the Barnstable school system, I really totally recognize the town of Barnstable as a whole, I think we all do. And the only other thing I really wanna say, because I don't know, hopefully it'll make you all smile a little bit, is when we were presented, given the presentation on infrastructure by the DPW and Bodie Griffin was talking about things that are going on, he started talking about the bridges around the town of Barnstable. And guess which one is the number one bridge that is on the slated to be repaired?
The one that was responsible that's rotted down below with the train over, the one.
No, those ones scare me an awful lot when I drive under them. No,
I don't
another
know.
guess.
One by the book here.
Yeah, the one to Oyster Harbor.
I know.
So that's pretty high on the list, and that's pretty much, in my opinion, that's Osterville all the way, so, I don't know, just, this is a great chance to really use your voice, and there's so much to be said, so I love hearing all of it, so thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
John, Crow.
Yeah, I just have a question from some extent to me. There's a question that a lot of these recommendations reflect the Cape Cod Commission model bylaws issued in relation to the draft housing strategy plan. Do your recommendations come from that, or they come from your committee members? That's a question that's going to be.
So isn't the housing production plan is still in the works?
Talking about the Cape Cod Commission housing.
Cape Cod
plan.
Commission gets this,
What's
Cape Cod Commission gets this after the town council looks at it.
Well, they released their housing plan, and what the person is saying is that a lot of what you're putting in your output has been reflected of those plans. And I will tell the audience that one of the first things our council did was say that our town will be making its own decisions and not regionally by the Cape Cod Commission. So that's what was happening.
And I'll make a note. Okay, please, this has been good. We really do want you to come up and talk to us, put your stickies on the chart, take the handouts home, go downstairs, get the full report from the librarian.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Coming up.